If you are waking up, we're talking about the front pages this morning. This is the Telegraph IS cell behind New Orleans terror. This is a man who drove a vehicle, killing 10 people, shot dead. The FBI says he is not working alone. There's also been an incident in Las Vegas as well, where a Cybertruck was parked outside the Trump Hotel. That then exploded as well. As you can see, Elon Musk saying that it appears that these incidents are linked. The FBI are investigating exactly what happened. That truck packed with explosives and mortars and obviously parked outside the Trump Hotel. He says that Elon Musk appears likely to be an act of terrorism. But that ongoing investigation in the United States, all of the papers full of that story. And in fact, it's the Mirror, I think, that has the pithiest headline this morning: America under attack. That is not something people wanted or expected to wake up to on the second day of a brand new year, when people had hope and aspiration and were intent on making sure that this year is better than the last. Let's move on now and talk about the front page of the Times. There's another article here. Matthew Goodwin-Freeman joins me this morning, political commentator. Let's talk about this, because this is a big story in the Times. And just in terms of people smuggling, immigration, we know immigration is the #1 concern for people as we come into the local elections and then obviously into the general election. It actually goes immigration, or immigration, economy, and then the NHS, in that order. Now, what they're saying this morning in this: anyone suspected of being involved in people smuggling or other serious crime will face bans on travel, internet, or mobile phone use under an expansion of court orders designed to crack down on small boat crossings. Now, essentially what the Home Office is saying is they're going to get tougher because it takes so long to impose any kind of restrictions on people. What, losing your mobile phone? Is that really going to be a deterrent?
Well, we know for a fact that most people lose their mobile phone crossing the channel anyway, because we've all seen the videos of them chucking it into the channel.
100%.
So, I mean, this is just Labour talking tough, and then the actions are so weak. It's more state intervention, state control, state
But they're going to
involved.
smash the gangs.
Well, they're not, because it's already going up. We've seen last year now, 2024, saw crossings rise by 25%.
Indeed.
So they can talk tough as much as they want, but it's going in the wrong direction. The year before, 2023, crossings were down 33%. So already a reverse. Back up again, hotels opening up, but hey, we'll take away your phone and internet use.
Well, also, just in terms of last year, it was one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous year to cross the channel. And of course, Keir Starmer has this border security, asylum and immigration bill which is coming in. They need to do something. They need to act. They know the public is not on their side. We saw the approval ratings for Starmer nosedive as a result of the policies they've enacted. And I think one of their biggest errors was to bin Rwanda. It didn't matter whether didn't matter whether it worked or not. Because you had some sort of deterrent, and we saw that many people were actually going to Ireland, so in some ways it was working, and not a single plane had taken off.
I have said so many times before, regardless of whether anyone actually went to Rwanda, the deterrent was working. Crossings were down 33%. Ireland were saying that we have so many people coming here now instead of the UK, we need to send them back to you. And we were saying, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole point. It was working.
So
and,
why did he bin it on day one?
It was one of those things where it's a brilliant thing. We're gonna get rid of this. We're gonna start a new change. This is the flagship of the Tory government. But the point was, you can't get rid of something and have no replacement. You can't change it and replace it with words. The word "smash the gangs" does nothing. It does nothing without action behind it, and that's what we've seen throughout last year.
Well, Labour says, well, we've got a border security command now. It brings together the agencies of the NCA, the MI5, Border Force, the CPS. They say there are investigations going on. They're working with their European partners. Look, at the end of the day, the European partners may well want to play to some degree, but ultimately they'll think people in this country is our problem.
And also, remember, we're sending France £500 million a year to go and deal with this problem. Are they dealing with it? No. If anything, they let the boats go off and say, that way for England, thank you very much. It's utterly ridiculous.
And
they're not taking action. They've got to stop this. We've got to turn the boats back. We've got to stop this, because People in Britain are fed up. You can't get a GP appointment. You can't get a dentist appointment. You can't get your local services. Yep. And I'm sorry, but when you have... And I've been happy to criticise the Conservative government in the past. You know, I'm not an MP, haven't been an MP, happy to hold my hand up and say, we mess things up. But now, Labour are in charge and they can't talk words, they've got to talk action.
Let's just look at the total numbers, and these are absolutely shocking. More than 150,000 illegal migrants have crossed the channel since the small boats crisis began. Just to put that into perspective, 150,000 people, that is a town the size of Cambridge, Ipswich, Blackpool, coming in to this country. And as you said, as a result of that, we have no infrastructure, schools, hospitals, GPs and all the rest of it. And of course, then Labour majors by saying we're going to build 1.5 million homes. Well, but if you look at the actual sheer numbers of illegal and legal migration, it's a drop in the ocean and it will never work. Let's also talk about another story this morning, which is the council by-elections. Labour has lost 5 times as many council seats as it's won since the general election. This is new analysis they've found. Obviously, 6 months in, they lost 33 council seats in by-elections across England, Scotland and Wales. They gained only 6. So the top line is Labour's gone down 33. The Tories, actually, to their credit, have gone up 24. Reform has gone up by 7. Lib Dems and the Greens, only 2 each. So there is a huge kind of shift, a seismic shift going on in British politics.
Yeah, at the last election, it was people are fed up with the Tories, go and vote anywhere else. That's what happened. Or people just stayed at home and didn't vote. What we're seeing now is people are already fed up of Labour. We're done. And people want to go anywhere else. And what we're seeing is reform, being able to fill the void where we're not having policies coming out by the Conservative Party, we're not having this new agenda in this opposition, filling that void and gaining a lot of support. Credit to the Conservative Party and credit to Kemi Badenoch starting to turn things around and showing this sign of unity and things like that. But voters at the end of the day are fed up. And I was looking actually at the analysis. The words that were being said about the Labour Party when you asked people in the opinion polls about Labour was incompetent, dishonest, liars. Weren't those all the things they said the Tories were just before the election? How funny it is.
Well, this is analysis done by Lord Hayward, who I interviewed on this programme actually yesterday, and he said, just in terms of this electoral cycle, this is unprecedented to be this unpopular so early on. Labour has experienced its worst set of results since the budget, and this all, really the marked disapproval of Labour started with I'm going to be careful what I say here, but with the extrapolation of the truth, shall we say, about the size of the fiscal hole, and if it is 20 billion, then raising 40 billion, and that's when confidence went off a cliff.
Well, they lied. I'm happy to say it. They absolutely lied.
I was being gentle.
No. Good morning. Let's speak to the facts. They lied to the British public. I said it on day one. They have sold you a pup. They've told you a bunch of things they're going to do, and they've broken every single one. And they can talk about, oh, well, we never said this exactly, or we never said that exactly. That's not the point. The British public don't like being
OK, so Lord Hayward says the test is going to be the local elections in May. I totally agree with him. And when we see people who are so angry, this is when the local elections reflect that, the depth of anger. What do you think will happen in the locals?
Well, Labour need... Well, the two things. Firstly, these local elections come 4 years after we had, for the Conservative Party, the Boris boost, the vaccine boost, just coming out of COVID. So for the Conservative Party, it's a high watermark anyway. But for Labour, the really telling thing is going to be how many of their voters now stay at home and say, no, not a chance. Because local elections have a very low turnout too, and that could scupper them in a lot of seats. But remember, between now and the next general election, we have every type of election. Local, council, county, mayoral, Wales, Scotland.
Well, it also depends if they have unitary authorities, and of course, stymie the system. They may get rid of them entirely.
Get rid of those councils they're going to lose.
But I said this yesterday, Wales is going to be very interesting to watch as well. There is real anger in Wales about the Labour-run administration there, so those results will be interesting to watch. But also, I think what we're seeing is that the end of the two-party politics, you know, tribally people were Conservative or Labour, or they were an other. That is not the case anymore. The fluidity is much greater.
Yeah, voters are fluid. Voters are educated about politics now. They get involved, they understand what's going on, and they choose who is best to suit them there and then. And that's the biggest thing. You can't rely on, oh, I've always voted for you now, because that doesn't matter anymore. People are willing to listen and willing to change opinion, and that's worrying for Labour and obviously the Conservatives too.
Yeah, and based on headlines like today's, of course, immigration rears its head yet again.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this other story in the Telegraph. NHS obesity treatment quadruples in decade. I mean, these are awful statistics. 1.9 million hospital episodes of treatment for patients with a diagnosis of obesity. This is in 23-24. That has gone up from 442,000. And this covers all patients with a diagnosis of obesity, whether it's a primary or a secondary diagnosis. Now, it goes on, this article, to talk about the use of injections, you know, the GLP-2 agonists, those ones, semaglutide, Wegovy, all of those kind of drugs. But I just wonder, where is personal responsibility in any of this?
Well, isn't January supposed to be the month that everyone takes out a gym membership and then quickly cuts it up by February? I mean...
Or by tomorrow.
Personal responsibility are the two words. At the end of the day, it is not the state's job to make you watch your waist size. It's not the state's job to tell you, stop eating too much of that and start eating some more of that. I mean, when I was growing up, it was you have your plate of dinner, you've got a section of greens that you might not want to eat, but you're going to have to eat them or else you aren't leaving the table.
Correct.
Now, you know, nowadays it's chicken nuggets and deep fried this and fried that and whatever. At 1.9 million hospital visits in 23-24 to do with obesity. 10 years ago, it was less than 500,000. What on earth is going on?
So just in terms of that, and I just want to finish on this point. So NICE has recommended weight loss injections for patients who are, we would say, obese, morbidly obese. So a BMI of more than 35, and you have to have on top of that one weight-related illness. So that is 3.4 million people. Now the NHS can't afford to do that, so they are actually going to treat 220,000. But when you start looking at the cost to the health service, at 11.4 billion pounds, because people can't control their fingers and what they're eating, and they don't cook, and we're reliant on processed foods, the NHS cannot survive if you continue with that kind of behaviour.
Well, the thing with the NHS is it burns through £1 million every 4 minutes. Every 4 minutes. So since the time we've been on air, we've burned through millions and millions of pounds. That is the biggest problem. If people suddenly want everything to be dealt with by the NHS, then that's going to go through the roof. And we can't do that. The NHS is already on its knees. We've got to make sure things are actually working efficiently and working to fix the serious issues.
I paid for it. It's free. It's free at the point of need. I paid for it.
So there you go. Have as many takeaways as you want. Have as many takeaways as you want. Do what you want, because, hey, the NHS will fix it for you, won't they? It's ridiculous.
And this is why it's actually a very complicated conversation to have with people, because there is an element that I've paid for it, therefore it should be there to treat me.
And often you can't, because if you use the word obesity, oh, you're very offensive. If you say this or say that, you offend someone. Well, I'm sorry, offence is there to be taken, not given.
Oh, well said indeed. Right, let's take a voice note. This is James talking about immigration. Good morning to you.
Good morning, David. Happy New Year to you. Just regarding the illegal immigration, why can't these politicians find a backbone and just say it as it is? I mean, for Christ's sake, this is getting way out of hand now. Anyway, mate, have a good rest of the day.
Thanks. Thanks ever so much, James. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? Actually, there are parties out there saying exactly as it is, i.e. illegal migration, turn the boats back, declare a national emergency under the UN Conventions of the Sea 1951. You are perfectly entitled to do that. You stick the Royal Navy in the Channel, job done.
The problem with this is the Royal Navy refused to turn the boats back when Priti Patel tried it.
But that's not the Royal Navy are there at the command of the government.
Well, this is the thing. Would you start court-martialling the Royal Navy?
Yes.
You know, all these sorts of things.
If you disobey policy, yes.
Yeah, and then the second thing is obviously our favourite friends, the civil service. Because what the civil service do is they take all the options that are on the table, get rid of most of them and say, oh, here's the nice two fluffy ones that we like. You can only pick between them. They don't exist. That's the big two. The two stickers in this are the fact that people have to do as they're ultimately commanded, and the people who run the government end up choosing what we decide.
But that's why we need a charismatic leader who knows his or her own mind, who actually says, this is the way we are doing this. And that's what we're going to see in the States with Trump, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually think Trump coming into power is going to change the dynamic, the global dynamic, quite significantly.